Hello everybody, welcome to our first live stream where we are going to talk about the Archaeopteryx and Microraptor and answer the questions that were submitted by the viewers. George, welcome back from your expedition. How did it go?
Oh, it went superb. We found a lot of new fossils to bring back to the museum.
What were the most exciting things you found?
Oh, a rib cage. See, most dinosaurs, you get a couple ribs here and there, but a full rib cage is quite the spectacle to find.
So in terms of the Archaeopteryx and the Microraptor, we've gotten a lot of positive reviews on the videos and we did have some questions submitted. A lot of the questions were about flight. You mentioned in the Microraptor video that the Microraptor was not capable of generalized flight as we would do it, but would rather glide. Is that correct?
Correct. So, scientists have actually looked at the feathers and found that the structure is weaker than modern day bird feathers. And the muscles necessary to fly are not present on the breastbone preserved on Archaeopteryx. So it couldn't fly, but it most certainly could have glided with the lift that those wings would have provided.
And so is that the same for both the Archaeopteryx and the Microraptor? Both of those would be gliders?
Yes, so Microraptor took a different approach with this, with the second set of wings on its legs to provide more lift for it. So in this time period, life was kind of experimenting with feathers.
So if both of them were gliders, how would they obtain the height from which to glide from? Would they climb trees like a gliding squirrel? Would they climb a tree and then glide down? Did they ride thermals like eagles, or how did they get to the height to glide from?
Oh, they most certainly were arboreal, which means they lived in trees, and you can see that in the preserved bones of their feet and their hands. There's a bird today in South America called the Huatzin, and this bird, its chicks still have claws that grow from their wings that help them climb up trees. And then once they're in the safety of trees, once they develop their flight feathers, they can practice flying off. So we believe that that is a similar approach that Microraptor and Archaeopteryx might have incorporated.
So they would climb the tree and then glide down from there.
Mm-hmm.
And would that mostly be for hunting purposes, to attack things from above, or what exactly would they be doing when they were gliding?
Most animals that glide use it for two purposes. One, for looking for resources, so they totally could have used that to hunt or find food. Another is to escape from predators, and the fastest way to evade a predator is to leap through the air away from it. And that is probably what Archaeopteryx and Microraptor would have done. They were pretty small, only pigeon size, so they for sure had many predators.
That was actually one of the other questions we had, is were they both approximately the same size, and how would that compare to a human being?
They were slightly different sizes. Archaeopteryx was less than 2 feet long, so about that big. Microraptor was a little bit longer because of its feathers, so it was less than 3 feet long. Compared to a human, they'd probably be about as tall as no more than a chicken, and they would probably weigh less than a couple pounds.
Another question we had was related to the bone structure, since we're basing all of this off the fossil record. One thing that I learned from this viewer's question was that the perception is that bone birds are hollow. In reality, they're not. They're pneumatized, which means they have more of a... How would you describe it?
I would describe it like an airbag. So bird bones are hollow in the sense that they do not have solid bone running through the middle, but they do have these air pockets that are created by the bone marrow and bone tissue inside of the bone. And these help not only structurally make the bone stronger, but also make the animal lighter. And this is very beneficial if you are a small animal trying to glide. The lighter you are, the more air you'll catch, and the more time you can use to escape predators.
So would the Archaeopteryx and the Microraptor have that same bone structure as a modern day bird?
Similarly. In fact, most theropods do. Theropods are two-legged dinosaurs, and birds fall into that category. They do have hollow bones, but birds are more specialized. They're more developed. They've had more time to evolve, so they do have slightly different hollow-type bones.
Okay. Yes, because one thing that I learned was that the bird bones are used kind of as secondary lungs or breathing spaces, and that enables them to fly.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So these things are called air sacs. They're extensions of the lungs into the body of the birds, and they were first evolved in dinosaurs. believe it or not, they were even present in the big long neck dinosaurs.
Really?
They had large spaces in their necks that would have filled in with air. And the reason we think they might have evolved was so that they could continuously have oxygen throughout their body. Just think, imagine how long it would take for blood to reach your head all the way from your heart if you had a neck that was longer than a school bus. So that way they can keep oxygen all throughout.
Would they have similar structure in their tails too, since their tails are so long?
Yeah, they would have. It extends all throughout the skeleton. So these air sacs form a pneumatic system throughout the dinosaur so that it can have oxygen whenever it needs it.
Other questions that we had were related to the feathers. Were the Archaeopteryx and Microraptor feathers substantially different from each other, or were they very much alike?
See, that goes into the feather structure of dinosaurs. Dinosaur feathers were slightly different from bird feathers in the fact that they had less hooks that modern day bird feathers do. That's because they weren't specialized for flight. Now, both Archaeopteryx and Microraptor feathers are similar, but they are very different since they come from different regions. Microraptor was found in Asia. Archaeopteryx was found in Europe. So, by regional differences, their feathers were very different structurally.
Another question we had from viewers was related to this extra claw that they had. You mentioned that for both the Archaeopteryx and the Microraptors. What was the purpose of that claw? Was it a killing claw? Was it to hold prey? Or what exactly did they do with that specialized claw?
Well, it is coined as a killing claw, a sickle-shaped claw on the second toe of their foot. So this killing claw, as it's been coined, has been thought to have been a tool in order to kill its prey. However, it is more likely used to hold down its prey. An example of this is the Seriama, a modern bird today that is actually a descendant of the terror birds, uses this to hold down its prey while it uses its beak to eat. And dinosaurs that had this claw had a large tendon attachment on the bottom that would have locked in their claw. So not only was it really big, but it was also very strong in its grip. I once knew a paleontologist who has done research on the grip strength of raptors, and that was his hypothesis, that they would have used them for gripping rather than shredding. In fact, most birds of prey have a larger second toe claw that they use to grip their food. Eagles, for example, have this.
How did the Archaeopteryx bridge the gap between dinosaurs and birds?
Funny enough, the discovery of Archaeopteryx coincides with the writing of the Origin of Species, which is like the evolution Bible. And evolution was kind of a touchy subject back then, just as it is now. But finding feathers on a dinosaur with reptilian features was very, very odd back then. And it really started the conversations between scientists of like, well, where did birds come from? Did they come from a reptilian ancestor, or were they always birds? So the way that the Archaeopteryx kind of bridged that gap was it started a lot of research into those fields of how life changes through time. And with those studies, we have found that, yes, birds do come from reptilian ancestors. And those reptilian ancestors are ones that we like and love, the dinosaurs.
Great. Are there any final thoughts you would like to share on the Archaeopteryx or the Microraptors?
Yes. So, Archaeopteryx and Microraptor, honestly, are some of my favorite little feathered dinosaurs. Even though they were this small, they were still pretty scary. I mean, they had the same claw that Velociraptor did, and claws and little sharp teeth all around their body. So, I would watch out with those if you ever have a time machine and travel back in time.
And with that, we'll conclude this episode. Remember, we'll be doing more of these, so submit your questions and sign up to be notified when the live streams continue. See you in the next episode.